I'm so honored to introduce Kathy Wells, who is the Executive Director of the Kempe Center on the Prevention and Treatment of Child Abuse and Neglect. This is the first academic center in the world that was established to focus specifically on this population of children. It continues to lead the world in this area, and I am tremendously indebted to Kathy, both for her open arms with the variety of work that we do as child advocates, and recognizing that child abuse is not just something that happens at the hands of parents, but it's something that can happen at the hands of priests, and it can happen at the hands of teachers, and it can happen to children at the hands of government workers. She has especially been powerful and influential in emphasizing the importance of both multidisciplinary approaches to supporting these children and families through relationship, and the importance of being in relationship with one another, both through the ideas and the work that we do, but also just by being physically present with one another, which this is the first time we've been able to do with this community since before the pandemic. So, Kathy Wells.
Well, thank you, Warren, really for your vision and leadership and innovation. And thank you for all of you for being here. It's really an honor to get a few moments with you, and thank you for your time. The work that you heard about this morning, the incredible talk over the noon hour, True North Duo. I mean, that's a tough act to follow. I don't know about you all, but incredibly moving. Yeah, I am honored to be in the position of serving as the director of the Kempe Center. I'm a child abuse pediatrician by training. I'm the section head for child abuse and neglect in the Department of Pediatrics at the university. So the center sort of serves a dual role as a section and a center. And, Warren's right. We've been really committed to, for now, over 50 years. So we're in our 51st year after the vision of Dr. C. Henry Kempe, that was really a visionary in his time, and talked about something that a lot of people didn't want to talk about, that sometimes people that love their children may harm them. And that was a very difficult conversation over 50 years ago. And yet the difficult conversations don't end, do they? And so we're really honored and proud to have an incredible team at the center and partners throughout, not just our community here at the university and Children's Hospital, but in the in the region and nationally, as we think about the multidisciplinary work that needs to continue to be done. So that's the clinical work, the frontline folks that are serving kids and families that are at risk as we speak in our clinical team. Researchers that are helping us understand better ways of intervening and really looking at interventions and saying, do those interventions work? And when they do, how do we implement them in a way that best utilizes the limited resources that we all have? And then making sure that we're teaching and training and educating our next professionals, our next community members that are going to take the banner from us and work to continue tirelessly to make a better world for our kids and our families. And doing all of that with a lens of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and belonging, right? So how do we all belong in a world that sometimes feels pretty darn harsh? And so that has been a core tenet of what we've been committed to. And last but certainly not least is how do we use what we learn and what we know to advocate and create policy that makes a better legacy for generations to come. And I am so honored and pleased to work with Professor Binford as we work together. And the work that she's done here, this major collaboration that we have undertaken with artists, musicians, and other creatives to really have their work be showcased and partnering with Center for Bioethics and Humanities on this testimony series. So just really honored and thrilled to be a part of this and in your vision. On behalf of Kempe, I am proud to open this afternoon session of the Symposium Advocating for Children in Migration, which will consist of two panels. The first on muralism and performing arts, and the second on healthcare. There'll be a 15-minute break between these sessions to allow you to stretch your legs and get a little snack. And then finally, we want to remind you that today's symposium will be followed by a reception at 5 p.m. today in the gallery, and the world premiere of Soul Echoes at 5:45 p.m. We hope that you can join us for as much as you're able to this afternoon and evening. And now I would like to hand the mic back to Warren to introduce the next panel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. Could we have the next panel come down? I am so excited. While they're coming down, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this panel. I'm going to introduce the moderator and then she'll introduce the panelists. But this is the Muralism and Performing Arts panel. And it is critically important for us to take our art into the public. That sometimes, you know, we create things and it's therapeutic or it's something that's expressive for ourselves. But what all these folks do is create art intentionally to be public. And that takes a lot of courage to work within yourself, to express yourself, and then to publicly unveil it in an interactive way. Josina Romero O'Connell has been pivotal, particularly with regard to the mural and the installation of the mural. She's a former teacher who has worked with children for decades, went to medical school, became a family physician, and joined the faculty of the CU Anschutz Medical School, where she is now a professor. And she's also the president of Colorado Area Health Education Council, which is constantly trying to raise awareness about public health issues facing Coloradans. And given that we are in one of the most diverse communities in the country, she made it a priority to ensure that the medical campus students know that these are health challenges that are facing them and the patients that they're going to be treating. And we were so grateful when she and her organization agreed to underwrite the mural that's outside. She'll explain who the panelists are, but it does include the muralist, Juls Mendoza, that was selected out of 100 people. And so I'm going to hand it over to you. Okay, Joe?
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Warren. Thanks for having us here today, and Representative Coahec. So as Warren said, my name is Josina Romero O'Connell. I also go by Joe. So for anyone who wants to call me that, I am the director of the Colorado Area Health Education Centers. I'm going to trip on that. That would be a good show. And my own foray into creating murals that gave communities health agency into their own social determinants of health was born during the pandemic. But as a northern New Mexican of Indigenous and Hispanic descent, my first and second languages were Spanish and the arts. So it has always been a dream of mine, and now Colorado AHEC produces Murals, and that stands for something, but it's really long. And we were honored when we were contacted by Warren and David about this mural here at the Fulgenetti Pavilion, the first mural at the Anschutz Medical Campus. That's pretty powerful. Muralism in general has been with us as a community focus and community information piece since cave drawings. The World Wide Web says that's a Paleolithic period. And I don't even know if people say World Wide Web anymore. Anyway, wow. Boomer. And so we need look no further than Diego Rivera in Mexico in the 1920s when the modern muralism movement was born. So between Diego Rivera and Juls Mendoza, we can start talking about community agency where it gets people right in their heart and soul. I am privileged to share space with you all today. I will introduce each one of you, but I really do appreciate when people bring their own names into a space. In the same way that I did, I'm Josina. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm going to ask all of you to just bring your name in, and then I'll do your basic introduction. How's that? Okay.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh. My name is Julio Mendoza. I go by Juls. I'm a muralist. I'm a member.
Thank you.
Kristin Grainger, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thank you.
My name is Hernandez, and I am a composer.
Thank you.
My name is Uziel Maradiaga, and my pronouns are he, him.
Thank you. So not to pick on Juls, we're going to start with his introduction. Juls Mendoza, whose mural Fly to Heal is just outside that wall over there, and again is the first mural on the Anschutz Medical Campus is a powerful representation of children in migration that he was able to inform universally, but also individually himself, being a child of in migration when he was 11 and they came to Denver. So Juls, honored to have you here today. Your inspiring vision has brought us something really unique and special. We look forward to hearing from you today, including if you could tell us what cultural surrealism is. But that awaits the introductions. Kristin Grainger, we met on email, and I told her I'm quite starstruck. Your song, The Ghost of Abuelito, is a critically acclaimed ballad that song that was nominated for a Grammy in 2022. Kristin herself is recognized as a notable songwriter who took first place in the 2020 USA Songwriting Competition and is mentioned with the likes of Dolly Parton and Brandi Carlile as, quote, and I don't want to mess this up, the women who wrote our 2020 soundtrack. Isn't that cool? She already received an intro, but I just wanted to add to that. J.E. Hernandez is also here today. He's the composer of the immersive vocal drama Soul Echoes, whose premiere tonight we are electrified in anticipation of. J.E. is born in Mexico and resides now in Houston, is an internationally represented, a respected cinematographer and composer whose previous work includes Voces Fantasmas, and that was premiered in the Contemporary Arts Museum of Houston in 2020. That's dedicated to the plight of migrants and particularly informed by his own trauma, having spent 60 days in a deportation facility in 2013. Welcome, J.E. We're honored. And then Uziel Maradiaga. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing fantastic. He's our youth dancer whose performance in Soul Echoes, again, we're awaiting tonight. Uziel, I don't know if you noticed, he's in middle school. So I'm like completely in awe of him being here. Uziel, I was a middle school teacher for 17 years. And so here you are. I'm totally in awe. You fly out here, you're in front of all these people, you're going to perform tonight. I'm just honored that you're here. Look forward to hearing from you. Am I doing it right? I think so. Okay, we're going to pick on Juls again. Juls, we know each other. Thanks for sitting by me today and being a friendly person in the crowd. Appreciate it. You were among 96 applicants who applied for the commission of this mural here on the Anschutz Medical Campus depicting the children of flight in the plight of children in immigration. Sorry about that. So tell me, what inspired you to apply?
Okay. I'm a little nervous today, so also I want to say thank you for the song. I think that kind of calmed me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the inspiration behind the mural, it can be very personal because, like it's just telling like the story of every children that has migrated to the States, and my personal story is different than everyone's. Hearing all the stories from different persons, like from the previous panelists, like how they were talking about all those stories. Like I said, it connects to every story of every child that has migrated to it. But it also, there's a lot of experience and memories behind the kind of made me want to apply to this call. I mean, a lot of people had sent it to me saying that it was like a call that mean, a mural that I, like that they see me, like you should do this mural, you should look into this. I feel like it's very of you, it calls your name. And when I read about the description of the mural, sorry, it brought a lot of memories back too. And I mean, and I was telling you a little bit about other stories, other memories that brought. So
the stories that you've shared with me, as the stories with all artists, inform every bit of your artwork throughout your life. But you told me a story that if you feel comfortable sharing, has to do with a 2-year period in your life when you stopped doing your art. Would you want to share that one?
Yeah. It's like a story that it'll be the first time that I tell it in public. I'm sorry.
You're doing great.
So I wanted to pick this space. It was also one of the reasons why also made me apply to the article, just to heal some of the, I don't know, like trauma or something. But it was, I was telling you a little bit about, so before being an artist, I mean, I would always draw and paint and be creative, but before even painting murals or making a life as an artist. So when I first went to college, I started doing art and graphic design. And because people would tell me, like, just pick a real career, I ended up with the criminal justice degree, which is totally different than what I do right now. So just, I don't know, just looking for jobs and everything. And this is something that I'm pretty sure like the immigration lawyers are very familiar with. And there's a couple of things that inspired me to tell this story today. And first of all, it was this installation and just hearing like all the stories. It just felt like it was the space to tell the story. So like I said, I graduated criminal justice degree. I'm gonna try to be quick with this. And
take your time.
I found a job on that said bilingual supervisor. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I applied, I got an interview, and I was very excited, I mean, I would love to help people, especially on their immigration cases. And little did I know it's more like a supervision program. So it's a intensive supervision program for immigration. And I doubted a lot just to get that job, but something in me tell me, like, if I wanna try to help in a way, I think it's better to help, being inside the system than what I can do outside. So that job, I think, like I said, I know that the immigration lawyers are very familiar with this program, and it's an intensive supervision program, which pretty much I was supervising immigration cases and making sure, like everyone that had like a legal status that was on my case to go to court, to not miss their court, and all that. So while working here, it was I was there for 2 years, and it was very difficult, just going home, and trying not to quit, because I wanted to kind of to quit that job, but there's also the mentality of being a first generation student and making your parents proud, having like an office job and all that. So, and so I was there for about 2 years, but in there I got to see people being arrested, and I went to the to the McAllen detention center, and I was able to witness everything that they talk about, all the cages, like 4 different ones, like boys, girls, and moms and dads. And I mean, I don't know what I was doing there. Like, it was, I don't know, it just, all this, made me, I think, the artist that I am right now. And while that period, I don't know why, but I stopped doing art for 2 years, which was like the 2 years that I worked there. And after I quit the job, like right after Trump got elected, and I like fuck this. So I'm sorry, but it was, it's too much in there. I got to see like friends from school, from high school, like anyone that had a illegal status would ended up there if they were doing something wrong. They would, anyways, I decided to leave the job because I didn't want to wait into that time someone of my family members would end up there. So I quit the job, and after 2 years, I kind of started painting again, and going back into art. And it took me like about 2 years to kind of start painting again. And I feel like that it's a lot of the inspiration of, just highlighting my culture and knowing where my place is. I didn't want people to know my name by someone that, I don't know, just works for that. I don't know, I know it wasn't me. And it was just more like, just making my parents proud and not trying not to disappoint them. But I feel like now they get what I'm doing, and then I think they're proud again. Yeah, I went a little long, sorry.
Not at all. We talked about how in our culture, the drive to please our parents is strong, and you stayed there partially because of that. But you also mentioned that you stayed there because if there was any little thing that you could do to help, even though it was hard for you when you ran into your friends from high school, you stayed. You also shared with me that most of your clients, most of the people for whom you advocated were granted asylum. Can you tell me about the other ones?
Yeah, sorry. And like I said, immigration lawyers know that it's not easy to get asylum on a case, an immigration case. There's a lot that goes into even to qualify to get asylum. But I was, lucky, blessed to have a few of my cases that got asylum, and that's just some of the things that kind of kept me there. And just wanting to quit, and just knowing that I didn't belong at that job, but I felt like it was the only way to make some sort of a change, you know, and also just the way that I was treating the people, you know, just like humans, because I feel like some of the supervisors, just because they didn't know English, because their Spanish was very, a lot of them, they knew, you know, they had like the dialect, like Quiche, like from Guatemala. So I would see how they were treated because, you know, like if they were dumb or something. So I just inside of me, I hated that. And I feel like if they had at least one person, you know, that can make a little change there. So, I mean, I'm gonna do my best. I mean, I stayed legal with what I could, because but it was just a matter of treating them like humans, and just, you know, trying to help as more as I could. I mean, I was told a lot of times, you know, like, you're not here to make friends, not here to help, because they would see that I was just really kind of felt like if I was an immigration lawyer or something, but they would see, like, you know, like, you're just supervised, you're not trying to help them in anything, but something in me just kind of kept me there until I could, you know, until I could take everything, and it was just too much, and I just decided, you know, I didn't want to live with it, and I did what I could, and now it was time to not just to look out for myself and see what I wanted to do, and I just went back to doing art, and I feel like it's been like a healing process, even without me knowing that I was healing something. I feel like it's been. Yeah.
Does a particular piece of art that you worked on when you started doing your art again resonate with you? Do you remember it? Your mural here is called Fly to Heal. Do you remember anything about the time period afterwards when you got back into your art, and what did heal you?
I think just in general, just doing art was very healing, and it felt like I was doing something that I was supposed to be doing. I felt like I was sent here to create art and to do something that I love, and not just something that just a random job that I was gonna hate the rest of my life. But I feel like this mural was I don't know, it felt like a opportunity that this is your chance to heal, to you know, just express how you want to feel about it. And it's a hard topic to talk about, especially in the arts. A lot of people don't want to get into immigration status or religion or political. And I mean, this one, I just wanted to show, you know, like, there's been like a lot of those dark memories from working there, and in a way, I don't regret working there, because it has helped me, you know, become the artist that I want and that I want to be, and I appreciate this the most, and just doing it for the right thing. So I feel like that's why this mural has been one of the most, I mean, personal and special when it comes to healing. And
so just so you all know, and I'd like you to hear this, Juls, we have a survey on Qualtrics for people to comment on feelings, words, meaning behind the mural, Fly to Heal. I selected 4. One person said, I felt awe, beauty, sorrow, and then empowered. Another person said, it provides a powerful perspective that forces a viewer to consider another point of view to appreciate the meaning behind the mural. Third person said, the words that came to my mind are, of course, that was in Spanish, but vida, cambio, transformación. And then finally, This mural is about finding the strength to seek out the life you want, as you did, and about the beauty that comes with the journey despite the hardships. Last question, at least in this round. Who's the child in the mural?
I think intentionally, or I'm kind of putting all those sentimentals and everything into the kid that not necessarily represents myself, but it's just all this sentimental putting into that kid that can be representative of any kid, boy, girl, or anyone that has migrated, you know. And I feel like I made it, you know, just thinking about personal experience and memories, but it's meant to be very broad and to feel that connection with every kid, because like I said before, it's not easy, even if you came with the visa or whatever to the States, or you cross the border, or you cross the desert. It's not, even if you got it easy here, it's not easy for the child just to, you know, to go through the journey to the face of just, especially when you're a kid, you know, they take away everything. Your parents, without knowing, you know, they do it with the best intentions of giving you a better life, but it's important to highlight that it's not easy for the kid to go through that. I feel like it kind of marked me, and just my childhood, just growing up. I feel like all those changes, you know, new language, new schools, new friends, it made me into a really, I wasn't confident in who I was. I don't know, I was very shy. I was very quiet during school. So I think all that's like something that a kid tries to heal from all that journey, and sometimes parents don't realize it. They did it for the best, but it wasn't easy, and it's not easy, and something that the child goes through, and it's good to talk about it and highlight it.
I can't thank you enough for your vulnerability here in this space. Jules, I know that wasn't easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristin, you're next in line. The ghost of Abuelito I had heard before, heard it again today. I always despair at Miguel's despair and what happens to him. The children's cries, the goddess who's failing them all. So this is my first time hearing Still Life Cafe. How do songs like that first enter your heart and come out on paper and then as music?
Well, I guess my first answer is I wish I knew. I think it's one of these things where it strikes me as an artist through an emotion first, and then I put words to that emotion. And with Ghost of Abuelito, it was talking with Warren and reading the testimonies, and I couldn't sleep. I think someone on the panel this morning mentioned rage many times. And I felt like it was lava right below the surface, and it needed to get out. And with Still Life Cafe, it was more along the lines of having my path cross with a refugee family's path, and then another refugee story who was also a neighborhood connection, that I just felt like these kinds of stories are compelling. And when you get people who don't know how to access difficult stories, they don't know how to process them, and what I encounter in the world outside of the room of these very caring advocates and doctors and attorneys and others that are committed to this work, they are so chilled and horrified by this news, by these kinds of stories in this news, that they can't process it. And so they shut it out, and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to think about it, and they'll even avoid news related to it. But when I sing a song about it, a folk song about it, I find the feedback I get from people hearing it that they understand now how to think about this. It's as if they suddenly realized they were once a child, or they had a child, or they know a child, that families belong together, that's the best situation for both parents and children. And that it got rid of all of the politics and all of the misinformation and the inflammatory nature of the kinds of things that they were hearing on the internet. And it really reduced it to something that was universal, that everyone could connect to. And that's sort of where I try to exist. That's the liminal space where I try to create art, is where it can transcend the BS. It can transcend the rhetoric and the hyperbole and the left versus right, or old versus young, or prejudice, bias, and find the place where we all exist, that essential humanity that connects us. And that's what I try to do when I write a song. And it almost always comes out of a real life story. Almost all the songs that I write, especially the social justice songs, they come from my experiences or from real life stories of people I have encountered.
How do writing those types of songs differ from the other songs you write in terms of where you find your inspiration? Are they different?
I don't see them as particularly different. I write songs about all kinds of things. There's, what is it? Woody Guthrie said it's a folk singer's job to disturb comfortable people and comfort disturbed people. And I take that seriously. That's kind of how I operate. The things that move me are things I read about, things I experience. I overhear in an elevator. I mean, there's all kinds of stories in the world, and some of them are about love or grief or loss or triumph or joy or war or an unsolvable problem or frustration, but there's no shortage of material. All you have to do is be quiet and listen or watch, and you can find lots of things to write songs about. The social justice songs are controversial. And so unlike the other kinds of songs that I write, a love song or a breakup song, the social justice songs require you to think and decide how you feel about what it is I'm saying. And that can, sometimes at a concert, people have great things to say, and sometimes they want to lecture me about something, but I'm glad they're thinking about it. I'm glad it got in there. And some people say, I want to get a t-shirt that says Kristin Grainger made me cry. And it's because, someone will say, your song really made me cry. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, but also mission accomplished, because I want you to feel something. I want you to do something. I want you to find out what you can do and do it.
So in the meantime, when everybody are having all the feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had the feels when you wrote it. How do you not cry when you are performing these songs?
Well, to be honest, it took me a long time to be able to perform that song, Gozo Abuelito, without crying. When I was trying to teach it to Dan, my husband guitar player, I couldn't get through it without breaking down. And frankly, when I saw Andra's, I've been following Andra since all of her 365 days online, but the red, white, and blue popsicle with "We Are Always Cold," even today, I teared up, and I'm like, okay, get under control. You better get out there and sing something. I'm still very moved by these stories, and it's very hard. It's very hard not to break down when I sing that, for sure.
And just to check in, you talked about your inspiration for Still Life Cafe. Are you still in touch with or friends with the refugee family that inspired it?
Well, and to be honest, it was the aftermath of the refugee family that lived in my neighborhood, and they rented a house, and the landlord passed away, and it passed to his estate, and the estate didn't want to be landlords because they were out of state, so they had to relocate the refugee family. But I definitely could see their mom and three very big sons living in this tiny, tiny house, and trying to think, you came from Senegal with these children, and it's just you're a single parent, and learning a language and a culture and trying to raise kids and all of the things that refugees endure just to acclimate. And then I hear my neighbors around me talking about, well, they should be so grateful to live in the United States. And I'm thinking, it's just exhausting to hear that point of view. It really is. And so I wanted to write a song about it, just because I think it's important to point out how incredibly arduous that is and exhausting it is. And it doesn't feel like a reward. Okay, we got to quit treating it like one.
What's the room upstairs?
It's a refuge. So after you've worked your the job that gets you the training and skills, that you can go out and get another job that is maybe nothing like the job you had in the country you came from, that there's this peaceful place away from all of this pressure to be something or do something, away from the other refugees who you're working with. I don't know about, I'm sure these are true, it's true in every town, but in my town there's a number of businesses that are nonprofits that have been formed to help refugees get particular skills, business skills, any kind, lots of skills. And the Still Life Cafe is based on that kind of a model. That's what that cafe is. It's a temporary refuge, but it's also a fishbowl where you're scrutinized constantly by people who are expecting you to be just thrilled to be in the United States of America, which, I mean, it's a very difficult situation. So,
well, the imagery is just incredible, and we'll circle back around as well.
Okay.
J.E., welcome. The premiere of Soul Echoes is tonight. The Voces Fantasmas that I referenced in 2020. You are a composer and a cinematographer. So you're creating these performances, but they're also stories. Could you tell us how you go about your creating these stories? Could you tell us a little bit about your process behind what Soul Echoes was for you?
Sure. I mean, so Voces Fantasmas is a work that is semi-autobiographical. So indeed, as you mentioned, 10 years ago today, I'd be detained right now in the detention center that is in Greenspoint in Houston, for anybody that is familiar with the Houston area. In fact, I'd be there right now, 50 pounds lighter. And today is the 21st, so I'd have about a week and a half left before I get out. So that was a 60-day period starting on August 4th. So after that happened, I mean, I was 20 years old when that happened. And immediately after it happened, I know that, well, you know, I'm 20 years old and I feel like I'm, you know, amazing or whatever. And so I just try to block it out of my mind. And of course, 7 years later, I finally talked about it with somebody outside of my family. And I started having a full body reaction, of course, with some weeping, etc. So I realized at that point, I was like, wow, this is, I'm certainly not amazing in dealing with this. And at that point, I was already in university on my way to learn my classical training, which is a Western classical training, old world classical training, right? Meaning classical music. So then at that point, I decided I wanted to create works that, I mean, I had already been creating works about what I lived and what I am. I don't really do anything outside of my own experience because, again, it doesn't really, you know, I can only really speak truthfully about me as an artist. And so at that point, I decided, well, okay, great. So maybe I can do something with this as I lived it and I've ignored it for all these years. That was 7 years into it. So that was, I want to say 2017 is when that happened. And then fast forward a little bit, I decided to create an organization called Concertia, which is through the vehicle through which I commissioned a work that uses it's called Music on Hold. So when you're detained in detention centers, this was certainly the case 10 years ago. I don't know about today. And you want to call outside to your mom, your lawyer, whoever. So you're put with this music on hold, which is like, you know, what Comcast has. And in fact, during the production, we called some company and they had the exact same music. So that music is still used today. And I'm sure most of you have heard it. So anyway, I realized that, okay, well, that was a sonic part of my experience, because 23 seconds go by and your call connects, so the music stops. Any longer than that, and you start just kind of driving yourself insane with the idea that, oh my God, man, you know, I'm probably not going to talk to anybody today, or they're not available. You know, it's nobody's fault that they're not available. Maybe they're doing something, who knows? And so I commissioned music based on that music, and I tracked it down. So I called the detention center I was in, and I was like, I talked to some rude lady and I told her, well, look, I was literally detained there. Who is your phone provider? And she said, okay, well, let me look it up. And then I called them, and then they said, well, we don't put the system together. It's some engineering company. So then I called that company, and some engineer there was like, oh yeah, sure, I got a zip folder, here you go. And then I was able to use that music. So I knew that through that process, I was injecting a tangible experience into an art that wasn't just an abstraction, that wasn't just an assumption, that wasn't some sort of approximation. It was a real thing that couldn't be denied. And then furthermore, to construct that piece, Voces Fantasmas, I recreated the drive because I was stopped at the airport and then transported to the detention center. So I recreated that drive with my stepbrother, and I recorded the sound of the road because that was the only sound I had. And there were visual aspects of that I recreated that eventually coalesced into this piece that was a 30-minute multidisciplinary piece, because I really couldn't express everything I wanted just through the sonic medium. It just wasn't going to be enough. And in fact, one of the dancers that was part of that piece is going to join us tonight as well. So there's a great continuity there. So after that work, after Voces Fantasmas, after Music on Hold, which was the program where I commissioned other people to do this, I knew that I wanted to keep doing this because it was just such an enormously complicated experience when I was detained. I mean, there was a hunger strike. I had to serve as like a pseudo lawyer to people. There was a law library. There were, I mean, somebody like, you know, lost their life, and it was a, you know, trigger warning, but it was a suicide. And it was just an enormously complicated experience. I just could not believe it. I just could not believe that this is what I had to go through, and that me as the only bilingual person was aware of what was happening. And it just was absurd, really. It's absurd. So in any case, that was of the many things that happened. That was the first time I met somebody who had crossed the Sonoran Desert, like in the flesh. And I was asking him all these questions. I was like, what are you saying? You went 20 days walking, like there's no way. And of course there is. And now I've done work up in Minnesota, where I've interviewed a lot of people who have done this. And indeed, it just gets worse and worse the more you learn about it. So then I created a piece called Desert Shelter. And that's the sort of second step into a series of works that have been continuing to flourish. Desert Shelter was a string sextet with choreography. And that was about the effects of the crossing in the desert in the body, right? The atrophy that the body goes through as you walk an enormous amount of hours, enormous amount of days, enormous amount of weeks, even at a time, through the desert to finally get here to, put it quite bluntly, do a crude job for people who are obviously extremely ungrateful for it. I mean, it's become a part of the US economy. Not to digress too much, then I'm working on 2 more pieces that are a part of that I have not finished, but this is another step. That was an unexpected step into it. Warren approached me after a mutual sort of acquaintance introduced her to Voces Fantasmas and asked me if I would be willing to do this. Because indeed, even to this day, Voces is the only piece in American classical music that is made by somebody who was detained, and certainly dealing so obviously or so upfront with migrant detention. There's simply no one else doing this. And this isn't a boast, this is embarrassing, that no one else is willing to step up and really do this in classical music. In any case, she said, would you be willing to do this? And I said, absolutely. Like, these children, I know what that was like. I don't know exactly what that was like, but I was certainly put through this churning system of immigration, which is, again, a part of the US economy. The center was run by, at the time, a company named Corrections Corporation of America, now known as Core Civic. They have a ticker in the New York Stock Exchange, CXW. I would suggest all of you check your pensions. Hopefully you don't have some stock in there. But in any case, I just want to paint to you that this is the kind of journey that have been going on. And leading into tonight, I also did not want to live really in a world where these stories, just like mine, were going to be up for grabs for anybody to tell. The great Mayanist epigrapher, Linda Stelly, who went down into what we call the Maya lowlands and helped decipher the Maya writing, which was then taught back to the Maya people who still exist in the millions, had an amazing quote about it. And she said, "I believe it's a human right for people to control their history." And this is exactly what I've been doing. This is exactly what I'm doing tonight. And what we'll see tonight is really people who have gone through this, controlling that history through the arts, and in a way able to paint the reality to people who may otherwise, again, only have approximations. So as to your question of the process, it's a very, I have a very complicated process. It's historical, mathematical. I mean, I'm a huge nerd, so I just love reading about all this stuff. And then at the end of the day, I really try to distill all the materials that I've gathered into what is a sonic experience. And of course, in this point, a multidisciplinary experience, though I did not choreograph this, right? So I trust my collaborators to respond to what I'm doing. And yes, that's what ideally we'll see tonight.
So when we're thinking about what you just said, or when I'm thinking about it, a question comes to my mind. Tonight, and what has happened before with your other productions, do people who have experienced this and people who haven't experienced this make comments about it gave me hope, or I feel more despair? We had talked earlier when you said it's a business. Now I totally understand where you're coming from. What kind of feedback do you get that your art is resonating in people, and how does it resonate?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. My ideal audience is me, like somebody who went through this, right? And, in a very real way, in a very crude way, I'm the only person that's a part of the symposium that has gone through it. We have another participant in the program who, for the sake of their privacy, I won't say who, but who's also gone through this. So there's two people that are my ideal audience. And even in Voces Fantasmas, which happened at the Contemporary Arts Museum, well, there's no free parking around the Contemporary Arts Museum in Houston. So even the people that I wanted to go couldn't go. And in fact, when we were doing the dress rehearsal, there was a lady who was part of the janitorial team who had gone through this, and she was watching it sort of like from the corner. And my wife caught her and she was like, "Hey, come out, we'll watch this with us." And she said, "Man, I would love to come, but I have another job that I have to go through." So unfortunately, I actually just don't have the data on people who have gone through this, who have seen it, because I do want them here. But generally speaking, they don't want to put themselves out in public for a variety of reasons, some of which are obvious, some of which are not. But as far as what you mentioned, I'm not out here to be a distributor of despair. This piece in particular, so you're all aware, ends with a Yucatec Maya lullaby called Konesh Konesh, and that's the colloquial pronunciation. But that lullaby is thought to be the oldest song in the Americas, because it's a lullaby that is thought to predate the Spanish contact and conquest, etc. And I've conferred this, or rather I've confirmed this with as many of my friends and colleagues in Mexico that are also great scholars and pro-indigenous. And indeed, it is more or less that. And certainly today, Mayan mothers in Yucatan are singing this to their children. So the piece Soul Echoes ends with this lullaby, because that is what I felt was the only real thing I had to offer them, right? So the declarations, for those of you who are not aware, are up on a website called Project Amplify. And there are three different categories of them. And it's children, adults, and staff. I believe that's the division. So for the children, there's 887 pages. I read through every single page to make sure that I wouldn't leave anybody out, right? And then I included them in the work. And the title Soul Echoes is the idea that this happened 5 years ago, right? So I personally have no idea what happened to any of these kids. And I don't know that anybody actually does know what happened to every single one of these kids. So at this point, it's an echo reverberating through paper. And it's a version of their soul, a capture, so to speak, a photograph of their soul at that time. And many of those kids, the most heartbreaking ones for me were the stories where the kid said, "I never used to have problems, mental problems. I never used to have
dietary problems. I never used to have physical problems until I came here. And for me, that echo is what I'm trying to offer a sort of alleviation towards. That's why it ends in this lullaby. Most of these children were from Central and South America, but specifically Central America, who's primarily Maya, right? The Maya people did not disappear. The Maya people are still there. And a lot of them spoke Ixil, Mam, Chush, and a few other dialects, or they're not dialects, a few other Mayan tongues. And it just, you know, as a mestizo Mexican, I wanted to offer something and to really elevate a group of people who truly belong in this land, that indisputably belong, and yet are having to go through this machine of really what is a factory of despair. At least that's how I experienced it. I can only imagine for what I've read, how they experienced it. And so that coalescing of my experience and their experience is to offer some relief, and the piece unfolds in this way. And I would like that to be a takeaway, not, oh my God, this is, you know, I'm such a bad person. It's more like the arts can provide something that is outside of the scope of academic discussion, right? That's outside of the objectification of data and information, right? These kids aren't numbers. They're not data. They're not numbers to bolster an argument in the court of law. They are human beings that went through something horrific, and they deserve every single honor in what is considered the highest form of music in the United States, arguably. So that's what the piece is.
So last question then. You are on a campus and you've got healthcare providers such as myself. I'm a physician. You've got physicians in the audience. You have lawyers in the audience. You have other artists in the audience. You have this panel of artists that you are sitting with. What message do you give to those professionals working in these spaces who have not, who don't have the authentic experience? How do you make that come across? For example, how are you making that come across in Soul Echoes tonight?
Sure. I mean, you know, I think there's an interesting phenomena that happens with higher education where there seems to be again, this is my impression so far, but that there's a strange disembodiment of the experience, right? That there's the intellectual, and then there's the artistic, that there's the mind, and then that there's the body. Perhaps in a room of physicians, I think that maybe that's not so the case, right? That we understand that the mind and the body are one and the same. It is one organism that is responding to different stimuli and responses back and forth, and it is acting in one way. It is not one phenomena that is in a vacuum. In the same way, the arts exist, right? The arts aren't separate from academia. It may seem that way, but they are simply not. They are not separate from the human condition, right? The human condition is this extraordinary thing, right? And within that extraordinary thing that is the human condition, I personally consider the arts to be one way in which the human expresses a battle or a contradiction to what we understand as entropy, right? So this idea that everything is going to a lower state of energy, that everything is decaying, that everything will be nothing. Well, art is the opposite of that. That's a human being trying to say, actually, no, that's not going to happen. Even though indubitably, from what we understand now, that will be the case. I think this exercise of art and the human condition is one and the same, and something we're doing as lawyers and physicians, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be fighting for better legislation, better human rights, what's best for the client, what's best for my patient. So my idea is just I hope that there's a way to connect in that way. Every decision, all my works have implicit within them the idea that you as an audience member can be confident that everything you are assuming about the work you're seeing is right. And I'm not the arbiter of that meaning. You are the arbiters of the meaning of the work. Feel confident about that, and feel confident that the arts are, in a sense, on equal footing. It may not seem obvious what is contributing, right? I can't say that, okay, so this piece of work has this many data points on who was influenced and how it positively impacted their trauma over X amount of years. Like, that's just not something that is measured. But it is working in that way. And it can be understood in that way. And there isn't a barrier. This barrier of the arts and anything else is completely invisible, made up, non-existent.
Thank you. We'll circle back. Uziel. Hello. How are you feeling? You're going to perform tonight.
I'm feeling very excited, especially because you don't see this type of performance anywhere else. And I'm really excited to be able to share this message that it's really important to me and that hits home.
How long have you been dancing?
Ooh, I've been dancing since I was 3. But I started dancing like competitively at the age of 5 with my elementary school dance team. One of the first pieces that we did was Rise Up by Andrea Day. That message was really powerful and it hit a lot of the audience members and it hit the judges. And in the audio recording, it said that, or the judges, they said that they loved the piece because it conveyed a message to never give up. And even though when people try to attack you and put you down, to just keep going until that dream becomes a reality.
Okay. Again, I'm in awe. I guess I want to know a little bit more about Soul Echoes and how your performance resonates inside you and out of you. So part of the question is, why do you dance? But the other part of the question is specific to Soul Echoes. What do you feel when you're performing and when you're performing this particular piece? And what are you trying, what's the message that comes out of you while you're doing that?
Well, the message that I want to convey as I'm dancing this amazing piece is hope. Hope for kids that were separated from their families, hope for the migrants, and hope for the immigrants as well.
Do you feel that hope when you're dancing?
Yes, because when I dance, it's a way for me to escape reality. It doesn't matter what's been going on in my family or outside of my family, but whenever I'm in the studio, I block everything out. And I know that I can tell a story with my body movements and with my facial expressions.
Your sister told me she was really proud of you. That's big for a little sister to say about their brother. You recently won an award in March.
Yes.
Yes. What were you conveying? Tell us about that award and then tell us what you were conveying in your dance that was so awesome.
Well, the award, I actually won at a dance competition. I was performing with my dance team, the Lost in Stars dance team, and my former dance teacher is actually on Zoom watching. And I actually won this award doing my solo. And this was the year that my grandma got really sick. Sorry if I start tearing up. But this was the year that my grandma got sick. And it got to a point where she was at the hospital and they had to connect her to all these machines. And I remember seeing her. And I knew that I didn't want to lose her because she has been my #1 supporter since I started. And the dance that I did was basically giving her thanks for everything that she's done. And the song was called Control. And I really wanted her to know how much I loved her, but not using words. And I just really want her to know that she's a very special person. Because if it weren't for her and her life lessons that she has given me, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Absolutely.
And she only went for my solo and then she left. And in a part of the song, it says that how she was always there to hold my hand when people have attacked me, because I was a victim of bullying. And I used to live with her. Me and my mom and my dad, we used to live with her before we got our home. And I would always tell her that these kids are making fun of me because I wanted to do something with my life. And she would always tell me, don't listen to them, because sooner or later they'll be in awe of you. And then who knows, whenever you're a professional, they might be in all of you asking you for your autograph. So I really do want to give thanks to her. And she's also the reason why I'm such a strong person, because she's a person that focuses on family. And she has always tried to be there, but because of her diabetes and her sicknesses, she can't. But she's a very strong woman, and I give her thanks for always being there. And yeah, that's also the reason why I dance.
Thank you. Uziel? You mentioned something that kind of struck me in my heart, and you said you wanted to convey something not in words. Is that what dance is all about? What language is it?
Well, as I said, dance is basically a way to just express yourself. There's different genres like jazz, hip hop, ballet, of course, which is the foundation of all dances. And oh, I'm sorry, the question just slipped my mind.
Mine too.
But
What language does dance speak if not words?
if it doesn't speak about words, then I think it just speaks to how the character or the dancer or performer is, how they're feeling. Because I do believe that that's also a very strong thing. How they're feeling, you could hear it in the music. If they want to talk about a message of anxiety, then they're going to hear it in the music. If they want to convey a story about a special moment in their life, then you're also going to hear it in the music. So that's what dance really is. Just a way to be able to express yourself without any words and to just block out reality.
Mark it on. Okay, I did have another question. Most people your age probably don't look too far in the future, but you already mentioned that you were really little and you were going to make something of your life. So I'm not going to ask you to go too far, but 10 years from now, where's Uziel? What are you doing?
10 years from now, I think that Uziel, yes, since I am like a beginner with Houston Ballet, I'm an intermediate, but next year I will be in the upper school in level 5. So in 10 years, I see myself either in a Pro 2 or in Houston Ballet 2.
What time do we have? Sorry, I'm carried away.
It's almost time for, it is time for our break, but let's take a couple of questions from the audience, Joe.
That sounds good. So let me skip 2 pages ahead. No. Are there any questions? Let's first from the audience here. Yes, was your name Josh? Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this. I have a question for Kristin and everyone, but I've been feeling this heaviness this whole time, and it's, you know, part of being an immigration attorney is just carrying a load of weight with you. And when you sang, I just felt it release. And I think what I was feeling was my heart breaking, and in a very good way. I'm wondering if you kind of feel that, like, is this about helping people's hearts break? Is this about like getting a release of some kind? Because I don't know, I'm kind of just spur of the moment thinking of it.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. I don't really have a like desired outcome. I do want people to hear it. And some people attach heartbreak with a release and something cathartic. And some people really don't want to go anywhere near heartbreak. They really don't want to be in touch with any kind of feeling like that. So I get different reactions to that song. And frankly, no, not very many people have heard Still Life Cafe, which was the second one. But I anticipate similar sort of feelings about it because it doesn't resolve a problem. It's not a happy story that starts out here and, you know, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, happy Hollywood ending, right? I mean, it's a song. Nothing really has to happen. But the great thing about any song that moves you is that you can return to it and get that feeling again. You can return to it and remember that feeling. And it's like a book or any other kind of piece of art. You can return to that to get that feeling. And I think that's what art is for. It's to, well, someone said this earlier too, is to show ourselves to ourselves and to turn ourselves to face us, you know, and to be able to see beyond your own small existence too into the broader context. And I think that's what art is supposed to do. And it you know, with Ghost of Abuelito, it's taking, so I wanted to write it from the child's perspective. I didn't want to write it as as any other thing, because the sworn testimony was incredibly moving. I mean, perspective changing, altering. So I sought to incorporate that in a way that would resonate with everyone, no matter what no matter what walk of life, what social strata, and that's that. I mean, I'm hoping that if you felt like the burden lessening, it's also your own realization that we all have this thing we can connect with, that we all have these feelings about justice and fundamental connections with family and how important those things are and how they transcend law and borders and other human constructs like those.
Thank you. And the others can answer too, because I've only just heard you, but I'm sure I'm going to feel similarly.
Really good question. Malia, do we have a question?
A comment from the chat that I want to share. This is from Chrissy, who is Uziel's dance teacher, and she is watching online. And she says, "I'm so proud of you, Uziel. Every time you perform, you expose your soul. We are so fortunate that you are in this world sharing your gift. I'm excited to see you perform Soul Echoes tonight."
To close?
Josefina?
I had to.
Hi, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
I'm behind you.
Oh. Hi.
Hi, I'm Teresa.
Yes.
I'm at the College of Nursing, she, her, I just wanted to mention and thank Juls for the beautiful artwork. I am not a migrant student, but I am a Chicana and I am third generation. And although on this campus, we don't have a huge refugee population of students, we're very privileged. At the risk of not offending anyone, you all know this is a very white narrative kind of place. And we're doing so much work to break some of the things that happen that just perpetuate that. But the beautiful artwork reminds us that we're in one of the most diverse communities in the country, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And whether for me, my students who have various different backgrounds from all sorts of regions of the world, they all connect to that. And they all are reminded that somebody out there knows that they're here. So for that sense of belonging, that's so important, because these students will aspire to what they see. And so the more they see of that, the more encouraged and inspired and motivated they are. So thank you so much to the group and to all of you who made this happen.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, I'm not going to say what I plan to say, because I've been sitting here being very inspired, feeling despair, and sometimes feeling hope. And so there was a quote this morning. I put two quotes together. Winning hearts and minds will help make change by entering into people's social consciousnesses. As we heard in another panel today, artists, you are really strong. Everything that you said today and all of the art that we are privileged to enjoy from you shows us that nothing like art can communicate to the heart and soul to bring the body into action. Thank you so much for being here today.